Okay, so as you will be able to see from the title, this is going to be my story on being hospitalised with epidemic psoriasis, which is a potentially life-threatening form of psoriasis. I've put this video off so much, like I've wanted to film this video so many times, and every time I've tried to film it I've just cried. So I'm probably going to cry because when I think about this I do get very upset. I have tried to block it out. I don't really think about it that often, but it was a very scary time in my life. But I wanted to talk about it with you because I get people ask me about it all the time, so I thought I would just put it into a video. So last year in May 2016 I stopped taking my methotrexate. So basically, if you've seen my videos previously to this, you will know that methotrexate really didn't agree with me. I had really bad side effects, and I really struggled with it, and it didn't even really clear my skin up that much. So basically what happened, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, so basically what happened is I was really struggling with it. And I specifically remember we had friends down for the weekend, and it was bank holiday. We had our Welsh friends down, the Reeses. I love them to pieces. That rhymes. And we were supposed to be going to Cambridge punting or something like that, and that was going to be on the Monday. So the Sunday I was like, I don't want to take my medication. I don't want to take my methotrexate. Like, I started taking my methotrexate on a Sunday night instead of a Monday morning, so I could sleep off most of the side effects because it made me so poorly. And I just didn't want to take it, so because I wasn't going to be able to go out. I wouldn't be able to go out to Cambridge with everybody. I would feel too ill. So I made the conscious decision to just not take my medication that week, and I had done this previously. I probably don't think it's the safest thing to do, but if I was having an event or we were going out on the Monday or something, or I had like a really busy day at work or something on the Monday, I wouldn't take my medication because I knew that I would be really ill. So there'd been a few random weeks through the year of being on methotrexate that I wouldn't take it for a week, and then I would just take it again the next week. So it wasn't kind of abnormal for me. So I didn't take my medication, and obviously I felt a lot better because I didn't have the side effects. So that week went by, and then it was medication time again. And I specifically remember this because we were house sitting Dean's aunt and uncle's house, and I was like, oh, it's Sunday night, I'm gonna have to take my medication. So I took my methotrexate. I so didn't want to take it. I was getting really anxious about taking it because I knew how ill it made me, and it made me sick, and it was just horrible. So anyway, I took it and went to sleep. Woke up a few hours later, and I was being really ill. I was really sick. I was shivering. I was so cold. It just makes you feel horrific, for me anyway. Some people don't get any side effects, but for me I just felt horrendous. My friend from Canada, Tamara, was actually staying with us, and I was taking her to work in the morning. And in the morning she was like, were you okay last night? Like, I could hear you like puking. And I was like, no, literally I feel like absolute death. Like, I'm gonna drop you at work, go straight home, sleep, and then I'm gonna go to work in the afternoon. But when I was sick, I could see my tablets, like, sorry, TMI, I could see my tablets in the sick. So I knew that basically what happened is it had gone into my body, it affected my stomach, they really affected my stomach, so my body just like rejected it. So I knew that I hadn't actually had my dose, like I hadn't had that week's dose really. Like, it just made me so ill because it affected my stomach so much. They did debate giving me like it through like IV injections or like IV infusions, but we never got to that in the end. So then the next week came by, and I literally was like, I can't take it. I literally cannot take my medication. I just can't do it. And so I went to my GP and explained all of this to him, and he said, yeah, just stop taking it. Cold turkey, just stop. So I didn't take my medication, and that was, I literally didn't take any methotrexate, and I was okay. Like, my skin flared up a little bit, not really too much, but a little bit, until like June, July time, like end of June, July time, my skin went crazy, absolutely crazy. I have experienced this before, obviously you've seen in my videos, I've experienced flare-ups before, but it just went absolutely mental, like it just went crazy. It flared up everywhere again. I was like, oh my gosh, how can I do this again? I don't know how to do this again. I know that I'm strong enough, but it was just horrible. And I was in a brand new relationship with my amazing boyfriend Dean, who is still with me, so we've got through it. But I was in a new relationship, like literally only like, what, a few months in, and I'm covered in scabs and bleeding all over his bed, leaving skin in his bed, and it's just not nice. Like when you're in a new relationship, obviously you don't really want those things. It's not exactly the most romantic to be like, can you rub cream on my back please? But he was amazing throughout all of it. I've never actually had any problems relationship wise with psoriasis. I get asked that question quite a lot, but I've never ever had any problems. Any guys that I've ever been with in the past have been completely okay with it, and Dean is just incredible. He's literally amazing. He's been amazing throughout all of it, so he was fine about it. And in the back of my head I knew that I was going on holiday in August, so I was like, it's going to be fine. I'll go on holiday and it'll clear up. It'll be fine, like everything's going to be okay. I don't need medication, I'll just go on holiday and it'll be fine. Went on holiday, it cleared up a little bit, like it always does in the sun. My skin like works so well with the sun, like it just clears it up. I'm literally destined to live in a hot country, I'm sure. It cleared it up a little bit, but obviously as soon as I came back to England, it got worse. So September came around and my skin was just getting progressively worse. I was really struggling to work. My uniform was itching me like crazy. Like my uniform wasn't the nicest of materials and it used to just rub against me. So where my uniform used to rub against me here, I literally would just be like bleeding. Like I would take my bra off and like I would be covered in blood, where it like my bra had rubbed against my boobs, or my uniform's rubbed against my armpit or something, and I would just go home and I'd be like covered in blood, where my uniform scratched me all day. And so this is the start of it. I specifically remember waking up and I had scratched myself so much in the night that I woke up burning basically, and my hands were covered in blood. I literally looked like on a horror movie, like I'd committed a murder. My body was covered in blood, because if you imagine, I was covered head to toe. I had like 90%, 95% coverage maybe at this point, and each bit of psoriasis was open, cracked and bleeding. So basically my whole body was just one scab. So I was scratching in the night and itching it, and I would go crazy. Like I would itch it and itch it and itch it and itch it and itch it until it stopped hurting, and it would just bleed. And then when it bled, it didn't hurt, it just stung from bleeding. So it's a really, really bad routine to get into, but I'd just done it in the night. I hadn't put my socks on my hands for that night, I don't know why. And I woke up and I was just covered in blood and I was just crying, and I remember waking Dean up because I was sobbing so much. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm done. Like I don't know how to deal with this anymore. Like I've done it before and I don't know how to do it again. It's getting as bad as it was. I don't know how I'm gonna like cope with this again. I honestly was just like, I'm done. I just don't know how to deal with it. I was in a really, really bad like mental place, and I was really struggling with it. But don't cry. I said I wasn't gonna cry. But yeah, he was like, bro, like seriously, you can't go to work like this. I had work the next day. This was a Friday night, and I had work the next day on a Saturday at 9 o'clock. And he was like, you can't go to work. And I was like, no, I can't not go to work. Like I don't get paid if I don't go to work. I love my job. I want to go. Like I've got no choice. Like I can't not go to work. So I like cleaned myself up and got rid of all the blood or whatever, and then put some moisturiser on or something. And then tried to go back to sleep, and I didn't really go back to sleep. I think I drifted in and out, but I was in so much pain I couldn't sleep. And then I woke up, I think about 6:30ish, and I called my boss and I was like, look, I woke up covered in blood. I'm literally in agony. I can't come to work today. And she was perfectly fine about it. It was like, just take the weekend to get better. So she was like, take the Sunday and the Monday to like recover, and let her know like obviously what's going to happen. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like I'll be fine. I just need like a bit of time to recover. And then Sunday I literally spent pretty much the whole day like in a bath of Dead Sea salts, just because it was the only time that I was out of pain, and I just slept, and I don't really remember, to be honest. It was just, I was just in a lot of pain. And then Monday came around and I was supposed to be messaging my boss whether I can be better to go back to work tomorrow, and I was just like, I don't think I can. So I went to the doctors and my doctor signed me off work for 2 weeks. So this was like awful to me, because I love my job, and I don't get paid if I don't go to work. So I was like, I can't believe that this has impacted my life so much that I'm now not going to be able to work. I can't go and do the job that I love. I'm not being paid. So it was just a bit awful, to be honest. And then the day after that, I was just in so much pain. Like, I don't even really remember. Like, I was in so much pain. I'd gone through the whole day just like sleeping, having a bath, not really doing anything, and it was the evening because Dean was home from work, and something just didn't feel right. Like, I have dealt with psoriasis, I've dealt with bad flare-ups, but something just didn't feel right. Like, I was in so much pain. I felt like I was burning from the outside in, like burning, like it felt like someone had literally set me on fire. Like, I felt like I was in, but I was so cold, I was shivering, I had like layers upon layers, I had jumpers on, I was absolutely freezing, and I just felt like something was wrong. I just knew that something wasn't right. So, like I always do, I googled my symptoms, and I literally just searched psoriasis feels like it's burning, because like psoriasis hurts, psoriasis is itchy. If you have it, you know what I mean. Like, but it doesn't burn. Like, it felt like it was burning. Like, it felt like it was falling off. Like, it was so weird, and my skin was like falling off in sheets, like literally like just falling off. Like, every time I moved, I was like, a pile of skin was around me. It was just awful. So I literally just googled psoriasis felt like it was burning, and the first thing that came up was epidemic psoriasis. Now, I had never heard of this type of psoriasis. I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is. I thought I knew everything about psoriasis, and I didn't. It basically says, I'm going to read it out from the article that I read when I first realised this. It says, epidemic psoriasis is a rare but very dangerous form of psoriasis. And I was like, oh no, I think I've got this. And I carried on starting to read, and then it basically was saying symptoms are like chills or fever. So I took my temperature, and my temperature was at 32. So my temperature was really, really low, but I was boiling. Like, I was hot to touch. Like, I was actually boiling to touch my skin, but I was absolutely freezing. My heart was beating really fast, which was another symptom, rapid heartbeat. And also like the fact that your skin falls off and feeling like you're burning. So all of the symptoms, literally every single one, you know, usually when you find something that you think that is wrong with you, you look at the symptoms and like you have a few of them. Every single one to the dot I had, and I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, like maybe I've got this. Scroll down to the bottom of the article, and the bottom of the article says, if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, please seek immediate medical help, as this form of psoriasis is potentially life-threatening. And my heart just dropped. I like ran downstairs and I was like, Mum, I think I need to go to hospital. And she was like, okay, what's happened? And I was like, I think I've got this form of psoriasis. I think we need to go. So I called the 111 number, and basically they then decide whether your call is an emergency or whether you just need to see a doctor or something. So I basically explained it to the operator, and they had no idea what psoriasis was. They had no idea what was going on. I don't blame them for that. I'm not moaning at all. But they had absolutely no idea what I was going on about. She was like, oh, is it like eczema? And I was like, no, it's not like eczema. And then they ask you all these questions. If you've ever called 111, you'll know this. They ask you like really random questions, and they say like, these might not apply to you, but you need to answer them. And I remember one of the questions was, can you lift both arms above your head? And I tried, and I was like, no, I can't do it. And she was like, okay, well, why not? And I think that question is like something to do with your heart. But I physically couldn't do it because down here and all down like my boob and like under my arm was all psoriasis that had all joined together. So when I lifted my arm, it felt like I was like tearing my skin apart. Like, it felt like I was being ripped apart. So I was like, no, I can't do that. And then she was like, okay, well, she's like, I'm not really sure what to do here. Like, and obviously they don't really get training on like everything. It's very like overview of what everything is. They don't get like specific training on anything. So she basically said that I should go up to the hospital and go to the out of hours doctors. So we got in the car, me, my mum and Dean, and they drove me to the hospital, and we went to the out of hours doctors, and this 111 operator had booked me an appointment there. So I walked in, and the doctor was like, okay, well, explain what's going on. And I was in such a state that my mum pretty much had to explain it all to her. She took my temperature, and again it dropped down to 31, so it was really, really low. She took my heart rate and my pulse, and everything was like really, really high, and she like felt me, and I felt boiling, but my temperature was really low, so she was really confused on what was going on. She then obviously asked if I could take my clothes off so I could show her, and I just lifted up my belly, and she was like, oh, and I've never had a reaction like that from a doctor before. And she was like, okay, you need to go right next door to A&E, like right now. So I was like, okay, like panicking, freaking out, and we literally, the A&E is literally like right next door. So we walked next door to A&E, signed into A&E, and like immediately they took like loads and loads of bloods. Like I had the most blood I've ever taken out of me ever, and they left the thingy, like the cannula, like in my arm so they could take more blood whenever they needed to. Now the doctor that we saw, she wasn't sure whether it was epidemic psoriasis or I had like septicemia or septis, something like that. So they wanted to basically take loads of blood so they could rule out that, and then so they knew that it was definitely epidemic psoriasis. So then I was literally sat in like the waiting room, like crying, shivering. I'd posted on Instagram that I was in hospital and I was getting loads of messages from everybody, which was lovely. I was really scared. And I remember Dean went and got me a blanket out of the car because I was so cold, and then they took me through to a room and they put me on a drip. They put me on, I don't even know, like a painkiller, and then they gave me like liquid morphine as well. And they said that like obviously my temperature was really low, my skin had basically just shut down, like my body had just shut down, it had gone into shock. But like because of the epidemic psoriasis you're at risk of like pneumonia and having a heart attack as well. So I'm going to read what it says online. It says, why is it dangerous? Your skin is the most important organ to keep your overall health. It keeps the control of your body temperature and it keeps germs and toxics out and holds moisture in. Epidemic psoriasis throws off all of this and the result can be life-threatening. They include dangerously low body temperature, hypothermia, the loss of much needed proteins and fluids, and severe illnesses like sepsis or pneumonia. So obviously they wanted to check for all of those things. Because it says if you lose too much fluid, your heart won't have enough blood to pump, which can lead to shock, kidney failure, or even a heart attack. So obviously it's quite severe and it's quite intense. So obviously they wanted to check for all of those things. They wanted to give me the morphine, and I was put on like painkillers straight away because I was in so much pain. My body had gone into shock and was pretty much shutting down, so they needed to get fluids in me immediately. But they didn't really know what to do. The doctor was like, to be honest, I don't really know what to do. There's nothing, and I knew this. This is why I never wanted to go to A&E, because I was like, there's nothing they can do for psoriasis. Like, I know even the quickest working medication takes like 2 weeks to start working. So I was like, there's nothing they can do. So why would I bother going? So they just kept me drugged up. They said that they needed to call the dermatologist from another hospital in my area, and they actually had to get him out of bed because he wasn't working. So they had to get him out of bed and explain to him what was going on, and they needed to ask him like, what do we do with this girl, like how do we help her? So I don't even know what time it is at this time. It's probably like midnight maybe, and I was like in and out of like sleeping or consciousness because the morphine kept like knocking me out. So I kept like falling asleep and then waking up and trying to rip my drip out because it was, the drip went right through a piece of psoriasis. So the psoriasis was itching. So every time I woke up I tried to like itch it and pull it out, and then Dean was like freaked out because I was trying to pull my like drip out of my arm, like rip it out of my arm. And all I remember is I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there. And I remember my mum went out of the room and I grabbed Dean and I was like, let's go, let's get out of here, let's like just run. I need to get out of here, I want to go home. And he was like, no, Bryony, you can't go home, you're really poorly. And I was like, no, I feel fine now, I want to go home, because the morphine was like in me. I didn't feel any pain anymore. So I was like, no, I'm fine, I just want to go home, I just want to go home. And he was like, no, just go to sleep, it's going to be fine. And I was like, no, I'm really scared. And I obviously went back to sleep, and then I woke up a few hours later, and they said that they couldn't admit me because there wasn't any hospital beds free, so they were just going to keep me in the room that I was in. So I was just in like a holding room, so I did have a bed in there, and Mum and Dean were there. And I was so relieved because I didn't want them to leave me. As much as you are classed as an adult when you're 21, like, I did not want my mum leaving me, I did not want Dean leaving me, I did not want to be in that hospital on my own, so I'm so glad that they didn't admit me onto the ward, like they didn't have room for me. I just had to be kept in this holding room. And then they came in, gave me more liquids, more morphine, or I don't even know what they were injecting into me and giving me by my mouth. I just was like, yeah, I don't even care right now. And then about, I think it was about 4:30, 5 a.m, they said, okay, we've got you an appointment tomorrow morning 9 a.m. with a dermatologist in another hospital which you need to go to, and they're going to sort this all out, but we can't keep you here overnight because there isn't any space for you. So they basically were like, you can go home now. And I felt better, my skin had calmed down, my temperature had gone back more normal, my heart rate had slowed down because I'd got all of the painkillers in me. So they deemed me back to like stable, and they were happy for me to go home and then see the dermatologist the next day. So I was like really happy to go home. I just wanted to get out of there. It was like my worst nightmare. It was just horrible, and I was high on drugs anyway that I didn't even feel any pain. I was just like, yeah, cool, we're going home. So we went home, and I woke up like a few hours later when Dean woke up for work the next day, stayed with me all night awake in the hospital, and then went to work the next day, bless him. And I woke up and it felt like someone was sat on my chest, and I was like, Dean, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. I actually can't breathe, like, Dean, I can't breathe. And he was like, go and see your mum, like, I don't know what to do. And my mum's room's like just next door. So I like ran to my mum's room, and I was like, I can't breathe. And I was like, I kept choking. My dad obviously googled what was happening to me, and he was like really reassured that it was just like a normal reaction to the morphine wearing off. So I literally was just having a panic attack, and I'd had panic attacks in the past, but nothing as intense as this. Like, I'd never got to the point where I physically felt like I was like, it felt like someone had like had their hands around my throat. And I get that quite a lot. Like, I get this choking feeling where I can't like swallow, like if I'm having like an anxiety attack or something like that, but I'd never had something so intense. So that was really scary, but I was fine, obviously. And then one of my friends came round to get me to give me a good get well soon card, and she bought me some like sweets and stuff, which was really, really sweet, and it was just really nice to see her. But I was so out of it, I don't even really remember. And then my mum drove me to the hospital where we had my dermatology appointment at 9 a.m. And again, I don't really remember. There's pictures, and I remember I had to get into a hospital gown, and the head of dermatology, the one that they had to wake up, came in, literally lifted my gown and just was like, yep, okay, that was it. And he was like, that was literally it. He was like, okay, I've seen it, it's done, like, we need to do something about this. He was really shocked to find out that I'd got to this point. Like, he was really not happy to know that I'd got to that point and that I wasn't monitored by my dermatologist that I was under at that time, and that I'd been calling to keep saying to them that something was wrong, it was getting worse, it was getting really, really bad, and he didn't know anything about it. So he was really upset to find out that I'd got to the point where I had to be hospitalised, because he said no one should get to the point where they have to be hospitalised with psoriasis. Like, it's very easy to keep under control. Like, I shouldn't have got to that point. And the reason that I actually developed epidemic psoriasis was because I came off my methotrexate cold turkey. You are supposed to come off methotrexate slowly, supposed to like taper off of it very slowly, like milligram by milligram, and obviously I was instructed to just stop taking it cold turkey, so I did what I was instructed to do, and I wanted to stop taking it anyway. So basically, once it had completely worn off of my body, completely cold turkey, my body was like, whoa, okay, nope. And the epidemic psoriasis obviously formed. So it says online that epidemic psoriasis can appear if you suddenly stop taking your oral psoriasis medication. So we knew for a fact that it was because I literally just stopped taking methotrexate, which I was instructed to do so by my GP. So the doctor immediately put me on cyclosporin that day. We know cyclosporin worked really well for me, and it started to clear my skin up pretty much immediately, and I was given some really strong painkillers to deal with the pain. The cyclosporin started working really quickly whilst I was waiting for my biologic medication request to be accepted, and I was on the cyclosporin for about 3.5–4 weeks before my application for biologics was accepted, and I was accepted for the biologic called Stelara, which is what I'm on now. So I started that in the October, and I have been pretty much clear ever since. Being in hospital was really scary, and I literally cannot thank my support system enough. My friends and my family and my boyfriend, they were there for me 100%. I've never had so many cards and flowers, and I've never felt so loved in all my life. It was amazing, and all of the girls at work were really supportive of me. Everyone was obviously very scared. It was a really scary time. It all happened so quickly, literally from being something's wrong to I need to go to hospital to you could die quite easily as well. I was oh, psoriasis would never be able to be to make you die. You can't die from psoriasis, but you can't die from the psoriasis. But what the psoriasis was doing to my body, and my body was on shutdown, and it was under so much stress, and it was in panic, and I could have, and that really scares me because it sounds so dramatic, oh, my psoriasis could have killed me, but my psoriasis could have killed me, and that terrifies me. And it still terrifies me that may happen again. I was told that it probably will never ever happen again. It probably will never get to that point, but I don't know that. It could. I also had a lot of messages when I first was posting about this on Instagram, oh my gosh, my psoriasis is going to do this. No, it's very rare. Obviously I'm very unlucky that I managed to develop it, and obviously we know why, because I stopped my methotrexate cold turkey. But yeah, it was a really scary time in my life, but I got through it. I've been to the lowest of the lows, and I've been in a really bad mental place. Obviously being in hospital really kind of affected my mental health, and I wasn't better probably up until a few months ago, really. That was September last year, and we're now October, the year on. And I probably don't think that I actually got back to full health and full mental health until a couple of months ago, really. It really affected me, and I think that is a side that isn't really seen in the psoriasis world. The emotional and mental side of psoriasis isn't really talked about, and I think it should be a lot more. It really does impact you, and I'm super lucky that I've got such an amazing support system to really support me. But there was points where I had decided that I didn't want to do it anymore, and I'd had enough, and I'd given up. And it's a very scary thing to say. See, my mum says, when I was saying to her, I want to give up, I don't want to do this anymore, obviously I was referring to not wanting to be alive, but I knew in my heart of hearts I would never do anything stupid, I would never harm myself, but I was in such a state that I didn't want to be alive. But I got through it, and I am so lucky to have everyone around me that helped me and helped me get out of that awful mental state, and being positive and being happy, and reminding myself of all the good things that I have. I've got an amazing family, an amazing job, an amazing boyfriend. I am so super lucky. So you really do just have to look on the good side of everything, and every cloud has a silver lining. Psoriasis has made me so much stronger as a person, physically and mentally. My pain threshold is so much better than it used to be. I used to be such a wimp, and my pain threshold is so good now. Mentally I'm so much stronger as a person. I know that I can kind of get through anything now. I've been through the worst of the worst. I've been terrified in hospital, thinking I could die, and I've been through that. So if I can handle that, I can handle anything now. I've been given so many amazing opportunities from having psoriasis. I've been to Amsterdam with Blue Control. I've met so many amazing people. I get to talk to you guys all of the time. I get messages all the time telling me that I am people's inspirations, which is so crazy to me because I'm just a normal girl with psoriasis. But if I'm helping you out, then I have done everything that I wanted to achieve. So yeah, I'm so sorry that I got so emotional in this video. I knew that I would. I've been putting it off, and I'm such an ugly crier as well. So it's finally out there. I apologise for crying so much. Like, it was really hard to film because it's really hard to like bring everything back up again when I've like put it way out of my mind, if that makes sense. But I wanted to share it with you guys. I get questions on about it all the time. And I usually reply quite like blasé, so I thought I wanted to just give you like a raw overview of exactly how my experience was. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I'm sorry if you didn't like me crying, and I am not at all, I'm not asking for sympathy at all. I don't need any of your sympathy at all. That's not what this video is about. This video is about raising awareness and being positive about psoriasis. The fact that I was in that place and I'm now in the place that I am in at now, I'm really happy and I'm in a really good place. I've got through that and I am living proof of that you can get through the worst of the worst. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel as well for future videos. If you have any questions at all about psoriasis or about being hospitalised, anything, leave them in the down bar and I will be doing a Q&A video at the end of this week with all of your questions so I can answer them all.